Creamy mac and cheese, crunchy breadcrumbs, and crispy bacon are about as classic as American food can get. And don't get me wrong, this is a delicious combination, but we can and will do better. So today I'm going with an updated mac and cheese that checks all of those boxes and more. Combining mac and cheese with the technique behind the legendary Roman street food soupli has led me to some delicious flavor combinations with crispy pancetta, a gooey mozzarella core, and what as of today has become possibly my favorite mac cheese. We're going to start with what is easily my favorite thing to do with a roll of pancetta, which is a crispy and incredibly aromatic technique that I cannot recommend enough. Start with 3 or 4 thick slices and dice them up. Put it into a pan with a little splash of olive oil and toss it into a 450-degree oven for about 30 minutes. This is going to become a deeply caramelized crispy bacon bit that is obviously delicious, but it's going to be even better with the addition of some chopped herbs. So while that's working, strip off some rosemary leaves and mince them up. It's spring here, and thyme during this season has these amazingly tender and very much edible stems. So instead of picking the leaves off, I just chopped everything up. Once the pancetta is well rendered and crispy, toss in all of the herbs, which will fully infuse into the fat and make this crispy bacon even more delicious. I like to store this covered in its rendered fat, and it will keep for a surprisingly long amount of time in your fridge. I don't honestly cook pancetta that often, but this is always a welcome thing to have around. I think the only way you have a shot of keeping these balls together when you fry them is to make the classic Mornay sauce style of mac, and I'm going with my go-to recipe, which is 15 grams of butter added to a pan and melted, and then add 15 grams of all-purpose flour, whisk it thoroughly, and cook it over medium-low heat for about 2 minutes. While that's working, measure out 250 milliliters of milk, and then add a good pour into the hot roux while you're whisking to get everything smooth and avoid clumps in the finished sauce. Then pour in all of the rest of the milk, and over medium heat, bring everything to a boil and boil it for 2 minutes. At this stage, for the more classic bowl or bake, you would add 100 grams of a mixture of cheeses of your choice. And the best thing about this extra lift with the sauce Mornay style is that unlike some other mac and cheese techniques, it is a super stable sauce that will let you add whatever cheese you want to it without risk of it breaking. But when I came up with this recipe, I was thinking about soupli, the legendary Italian fried rice ball. And with that classic technique, it's important to add the cheese off of the heat to preserve its strings when it's finely fried. So instead of adding anything right now, I grated 50 grams of asiago cheese and set it aside. Ultimately, the temperatures of the sauce and the noodles when you combine them are somewhat important, so keep this sauce warm while you boil the noodles. Cooking pasta for this does require a slightly modified but still very easy technique because we want to preserve as many of the starches as possible so the balls hold together well when they're fried. Add 80 grams or a half cup of macaroni into a cold pan with 1.5 cups of cold water and a tablespoon of salt, then bring them up to a boil and cook the noodles for about 6 minutes until they're just tender but still al dente, and then strain any of the remaining liquid out. These will stick at the end, so be sure to stir the pot a few times during the cooking process. Then immediately combine the hot noodles and the hot sauce together off the heat with the grated asiago cheese, plenty of chopped parsley, and a big spoonful of strained pancetta. Lay it into an ideally metal bowl and then spread everything out so it cools evenly. Most of you are familiar with the classic breading method, but previous viewers of the channel will know that I have definitely talked about the massive benefits of my preferred method in other videos. So feel free to use the classic if you're more comfortable with it, but I combined 2 egg whites with 45 grams of cornstarch, whisked everything up, and then got a bowl of panko ready. Once the mac mixture is room temperature, grab a nice handful, then flatten it, and add a small cube of mozz into the middle. Add another small spoonful of the mixture on top and press everything into an egg shape. You want to make sure to use a day-old, well-drained ball of mozz, or you can buy the low-moisture stuff at most grocery stores. Feel free to lay these out onto a sheet tray and put them into your fridge to cool them down for a few minutes for a extremely easy breading process, or you can be gentle and drop them directly into the egg white cornstarch mixture, roll them around to fully coat them, then put the mac into the panko to cover everything with the breadcrumbs, and throw them onto a sheet tray with a wire rack and pop them into your fridge for about 30 minutes for everything to set and make sure it stays together when it's fried. I leaned into Italian cheeses and flavors for this version, but as you can imagine, they are fully customizable. So pick whatever cheeses, herbs, or fillings you want to. Frying these could not be easier. Bring a pot of oil up to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, gently lower the mac and cheese in, and fry them for 4 or 5 minutes until everything is golden brown and crunchy. Lift them out onto some paper towels, and while they're still hot, season them with salt and let them rest for 3 or 4 minutes to make sure all of the cheese inside is nice and melted. Crunchy, cheesy, and delicious. This is honestly not my everyday sort of a snack, but these things are pretty ridiculous. My head told me to eat them with a salad, but my stomach won, and I absolutely devoured these things moments after capturing that thumbnail. But anyway, that is all for me on this one. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.